I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I shared something on my Instagram stories last night that led to me being asked quite a few questions. And it makes sense. And so I thought I would come on live to share more about this. And just generally speaking, about the topic of like being in your leadership energy and moving like a leader versus being in your follower energy, and how these things get very confused in terms of like how we interact in community or create our communities or think about community, all the different things. So I don't have to tell you, you don't have to look very far around the internet to see that one of the primary ways that a lot of people sell their spaces right now is based on the community aspect. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like a lot of us are creating things that aren't like normalized in the quote unquote real world. And so it makes sense that you would get in the room and be around people who are in process of normalizing what it is that you desire to create or have already created it. Like humans we are like sponges, right? So the more that we can see that what we want is available, the more that we can be around people who are building that who have already built it, the more accessible, available we're going to make it to ourselves, right? This is the power of group spaces. This is the power of masterminds. This is the power of not going it alone. In addition to obviously, for example, in a group space or a mastermind, the learning opportunity, right? Because not only are your questions answered, you hear other people's questions get answered. Like it is a vibe. It is a full vibe to be around other people who are doing what you desire to do, doing it better, have done it already, et cetera, et cetera. However, something that we are seeing presently, so that's all positive, right? And so a lot of people are selling community, right? And additionally, it makes sense because we had our whole pandemic era. Like, yes, everybody was alone, isolated, right? So it made sense, right? We were joining these spaces, et cetera, et cetera. And at that time, it was about more than learning how to, heal or build your business or whatever it is. It was like for a lot of people, that was their also just like social connection in. Like that was a weird time, right? So also perfect. And what I think is really interesting, I'm going to be really honest, is a lot of what is sold as community on the internet has a cultish undertone to it. And I'm not saying this is the fault of the person who's selling it. And in theory, nothing is wrong or right? I'm not even necessarily positioning it as problematic. What I'm showing up to you with today to talk to you about is making sure that you are always showing up and engaging as a leader. Because what I see a lot of is people will be inside of quote unquote community spaces, but they're inside that space from the energy of a follower. Right. And so the energy of the follower, this is where people are like fangirling over their mentors. They're spending their whole day in Telegram, right? And they're like just very emotionally involved with the experience. And I don't mean from a place of just like connection, like, yes, I vibe with this. I mean this from a place of almost like they are taken over by the energy of the container. And so they aren't actually building leadership in their own right. They aren't actually going out and really like scaling their companies. They aren't actually going out and like taking X and like putting it into motion in the real world, coming back for feedback, going back and putting it in motion again. They're just absorbed in the energy of the space, right? And so what tends to happen, and really that's up to those people, that is up to us in the spaces that we're in to decide how we participate and decide if we are going to build leadership through the experience or if we're going to be in the energy of the follower. Because what happens, right, in a cultish dynamic, right, it's like idolization of one person. And right, and so when you're recording an entire podcast about this, I love this. So when we have idolization of one person, this is not good. This is not good, right? And the thing is, you are like, to pay money to idolize someone is even crazier. And yet I see well-meaning people do it all the time. And what this actually is an enormous outsource of power, right? An enormous outsource of power. You are getting in the room to build your power, not to outsource your power to anyone, no matter how much money they've made, how much perceived fame they have, like what their clout is, what they've built that you haven't built, whatever. The point of getting in the room is to walk shoulder to shoulder. And so, but this is a lot of time not what's happening. And like, this is the problem that I, quote unquote, problem that I take with the, not with community itself, but with the sell of community. Because I think about myself, I'm like, I view myself as a leader. Okay, sorry, pause. But the idea of, for me, being a seasoned business owner in somebody's named community is like a hard no. I'm not part of your marketing engine. I am not part of your marketing engine. Like, I am a leader, right? And that doesn't mean that anybody doing that is wrong. I'm talking about like my kind of like just perception and like experience and like from being behind the scenes, right? Where I was like, sometimes I'm like, what's going on in here? Like nothing. It's just like women jibber jabbering, right? And like we can do better than this. And the other thing is like, that's like you have to think about how you are actually interacting with power, because what it showcases, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that like every one person who has a community is trying to create a cult. I'm not. But I'm saying that people do not go into spaces to harness their power when that's actually why you want to be in the room, so that you actually create something. You just being part of somebody's like marketing engine and fangirling over them is not building your company, right? Like these are two very different things. And so what I was sharing is that I noticed, similar to me, the majority of my clients are not really interested in being part of someone's like marketing engine. And what I mean by that is that it's like, oh, my community, da 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 da, right? You must fangirl over me all the time. You must say how enormously incredible I am all the time so that I can share it on the internet all the time. And it's like, feed my ego, feed my insecurity, whatever it is, my like mild narcissism, whatever it is, right? I don't want to be part of that. My clients don't want to be part of that. But this will exist, right? This will exist. I'm also not even trying to like take it down or change it. I don't even care, right? I'm just talking about the reality of being on the internet and the reality of interacting with other humans and the reality of like interacting with brands, with people-led brands, right? And can we be conscious of how we are choosing to interact with brands that we pay for growth? And so what I've noticed in my clients, and so I'm literally bringing this up with somebody asked me about it too. And she was also saying like, well, what do you mean when you say that you're not interested in having your clients be like you? And I was like, I'm not interested in being the mentor where all my clients they come in my world, and as soon as they're in, you know that she is Jocelyn Kelly Reid's client because she talks like her words are like hers, she's selling like her offers are like hers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't what it is to me. And when I think about, but this happens a lot. And again, I'm not blaming the mentor. People are hugely outsourced in their power, but they want what people have who are in the position of power. So if you think about, for example, these mentors where the people are fangirling and like doing all of this stuff and have their power majorly outsourced and are just like caught up in the energy of the room, but aren't necessarily like harnessing it to build anything. If you think about that, like that only props up that one person. Right? This is not what we're doing here. And I just really want to clarify, I am not saying that anybody is doing this on purpose. Sometimes people just act like this because they don't know how to act. It's sort of like how people fangirl over a celebrity, but like, you don't even know these people. Like, why are you obsessed with people you don't know? You know what I'm saying? So the real vibe, and then I think about it and I'm like, well, I mean, here's the honest truth for you guys. There's no leaders who are fangirling. There's no leaders spending their full day in Telegram jibber jabbering. They're in the room, they're getting support, but they're the people who are taking the support and moving. And then underneath them is all the people in the follower energy. But the leaders aren't doing that, right? And like, this is just the most honest truth that I can give you. And I would see, like, because I would be in the room and I'd be like, okay, well, the 7-figure entrepreneurs aren't doing this. The multiple 7-figure entrepreneurs aren't doing this. Da-da-da-da. This is like something I can't miss, right? What is the behavior of the women who are making money and moving forward? And what is the behavior of those who are not, but they have given themselves the feel good of putting down the money to get in the room. But then what are they doing when they get in there? They're treating it like a sleepover party. And like, this is not it. And because they're getting emotional connection that they perhaps aren't getting in their normal life or like wherever it is, now this is the greatest thing ever. But like, are you actually building your company? Because isn't that what you're supposed to be doing here? This, I have to be honest, makes no sense to me. Like, this is crazy. We need to actually do the work to become self-secure, to be in our power, to release whatever it is that makes us think that we want to get in a room and then we're codependent and we're fangirling and we're so caught up in the emotions of like, oh my God, I'm here, that we're not even doing what we set out to be doing by coming here in the first place. And I have seen this so many times, and it makes me so sad because I would love to see women move more intelligently. I would love to see women gaining the real skill set to build their companies while also, of course, being in community, being in sisterhood. Like, it's complicated sometimes, right? You go through a lot in scaling your company. Things happen in your company. It is normal. Like I said, this is why we have mentorship. This is why we have the rooms that we have to get support around those things. But it's like, are you doing that, or do you have your power outsourced to a space? Because leaders don't have their power outsourced to a space. And if we ever go through seasons of we find out it ends up fucking with our frequency. And then that impacts the conviction that you have in your content. It impacts your ability to show up with power in your business. It impacts the frequency behind which you market and sell. It impacts your clarity. It impacts everything. Codependency is extremely unhealthy for you. And so something that I noticed in my clients is I was like, oh, this is interesting. As much as community is sold on the internet as like the holy grail, which is very, very lucrative for the person selling it, right? And again, it can be very healthy and very positive. Is I was like, the women who come into my world are like, don't really desire that. And I think that is very interesting. And it's probably because I'm quite similar. But I'm like, oh, it's like they pop in, they get what they need, we cheer each other on, and they're like, okay, boom, going to do what I need to do. And I noticed in my spaces, I was like, it's like, yes, there's intimacy, right? I'm someone who leads with a lot of truth. I will tell you what's going on. My clients are like spiritual. They're awake. They're grounded. Like, their eyes are open, right? So we have very open, honest communication, but there isn't that energy of like, Jocelyn, like, you are the holy one. And like, I am trying to be like you. And when people have fangirled at me, and I always am like, hey, that's not what we're doing here, because you will not get where you want to go in your company if you have your power outsourced to an idea of me or anyone else that is on a pedestal that automatically communicates that what we have that you want is not available to you because you've got it on a pedestal because we're fangirling. Like, close out the fangirling. Walk shoulder to shoulder. Have respect. But you are as good as, right, whoever that you hire and get in the room with. And so for me, I'm like, I don't want to foster that, not because I don't like chit-chatting. Hello, of course I do. I'm a woman, right? But when it's like time for business, it's like time for business. And I want to see women actually grow. I want to see women actually know their own soul truth, not the soul truth because they're like, I am a member of this community. It's like, is that your soul truth? Who are you? Who are you? Right? Not who are you in the context of someone else's company, but who are you? I actually feel uncomfortable putting that label on people. I have a movement in my company, right? So obviously you've heard me speak about Relax Millions. That's what we get to create and how we get to create it. And even in that experience, it is customizable. It is tailored. Everybody's not running their business the same way. Everybody's not doing the same things, but it's more about the frequency of what we create and how we create it. That feels really clean and really good to me, right? I am all about let's scale richer, not harder. Everybody's brand is going to have these like pillars, these beliefs that it stands on. If we don't, we don't have a brand. If we don't, we do not have a brand. So we need to like have that. But for me to put a label on other people where it's like, you are part of my named community, is like, you fucking belong to me. And that is not the case, right? Like that's how it feels to me. That's how it feels for me to be like under that. I feel like it's like a little bit of like control, or like I have to drink some Kool-Aid that I don't want to drink. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm just here to learn. So for me, and like, if that vibes with you, don't get me wrong, this can be done in a very clean way. I'm just speaking from like my observations and from the women that I see in my world. And I know a lot of incredible humans on the internet who are very forward about running communities, who are doing incredible things in the world. Again, this is not about them. I am talking about like for them, that this is like a representative of the mission, of the purpose, of the vision, the way that for me, my movement is, right? But that's all that's going on. I'm largely talking about how I see people show up in the space, right? Mentor didn't tell anybody to do that. I'm talking about how people choose to show up in the space. But then they say they want to make millions. They say they want to be known. They say they want all of these things, right? But then they're showing up in a follower energy, right? Where it's like, I have my power fully outsourced, and that will never make you the money that you want to make. And so for me, what's important is like, you don't come in to be, so I might have aspects that are, you're like, oh, she's strong in that area. I desire to be strong in that area, right? Like, I'll even notice in my clients' human design charts or astrology or whatever it is. There's always stuff that like makes sense, right? It's like we're similar in certain ways, or we're different in certain ways, where the opposite is the medicine, or there may be a skill set that I really like have down that you desire to strengthen, whatever it is, right? This is all very normal, but the point of being inside mentorship is you becoming more of you, not through the context of somebody else's lens, because no matter what, your life, your business will always bring you back to soul truth. You can make a lot of money not being in your truth, right? How many people have had the experience where you're like, I started going in one direction and then I really felt like that wasn't it and we changed lanes. You didn't do anything on a lie. It's like your truth evolved, right? Some people do things on a lie where it's like, well, I'm really good at this. I don't really like it, but I know it makes me a lot of money, so I'm just going to do it. Eventually, anything that we do that is not fully aligned with our soul truth or the truth that we are intended to be inside of right now, it starts to crumble. It gets really hard. It gets really stressy. What used to feel like yum no longer feels like yum. Sometimes that's who you're speaking to. Sometimes that's containers you're running. Sometimes that's how you're running them. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like we just evolve. And as an energetic being who is literally here to get paid to be yourself, you are going to be initiated into seasons of evolution and like seasons of truth, right? And you know what? One of those seasons might be like, I need the umbrella of being inside a community that has a name because this gives me a sense of identity, right? And then you might outgrow that. And again, do not confuse just having support and supportive people around you with what I'm talking about, which is more like a branded community, right? And so something that I notice again with all of my clients is like, and maybe it's the point of attraction. Maybe that's just what they're ready for when they come my way, is like, they don't want that. They're like really want to be known in their own right. They're not trying to communicate like I do. They're not necessarily trying to build their business exactly how I do. They perhaps desire my conviction or mastery with money or mastery with marketing and sales or just ability to see them. Or like one of my greatest gifts, of course, is like being strategic, but also being able to see someone energetically, being able to see somebody's business energetically and be like, okay, this is what's off. This is what I feel like we can amplify. This is where you're really not seeing yourself. And that's the thing for me. It's like, if I have a label over you, I can't even just like, we can't even open the floodgates to who you are and what you're not seeing about yourself. Because it's like energetically, you're like under this label that I created for you. And like, this is how we operate under the label. It just really doesn't sit with me. But again, that doesn't make it wrong, right? We all get to do things exactly how we want to do them. And if I have like clients with communities and they desire to name them, it's highly marketable. It's actually not a problem at all, right? And they get to foster the connections in their spaces that they desire to foster. Like there's a reason it's quote unquote trending on the internet. But what I want you to pay attention to is how do you show up And are you showing up from an energy of leadership? You're here to walk shoulder to shoulder? Or are you mistakenly going in a room and it feels secure because it has like a name that's a community, and so you think you're just gonna like absorb all of this stuff through osmosis and like somehow we're just gonna transform? Because that is literally how cults are born. Right? This is literally how people stay followers. Right? But you are here to be a leader. And so, like I said, for me, and I just wanted to bring forward this conversation, because to me, I was like, is this that deep? I was just saying, like, I'm not interested in you needing to sound like me, be like me, run your company like me. I'm interested in how we get to the core of what is so, like, fully unreplicatable. Is that a word? Unreplicatable. You know what I mean? What fully cannot be replicated about you. Because that is how you are going to feel the greatest sense of power. That is how you will not even have any comparison in your business, because what you are marketing cannot be replicated because it came from your soul. It came from your soul. Not just, well, how does this fit in the context like of a niche and my positioning and me showcasing myself on the internet and da-da-da-da. Those business things are important, of course, but it's like we have to be so clear on our essence, right? And marketing and positioning and doing all the things through the lens of our essence, that is how you stand out as the one, right? That is how you stand out as the one. And for me, it is very hard for me to envision how I help someone stand out as the one if I'm like, but your label is this when you're in my world. That's what I don't like. And none of my clients look for that. And so when I think about, you know, all the women who've been on my podcast, all the women who've been through my world, who I've mentored in proximity, they are not similar to each other, right? You wouldn't be like, oh, she sounds like she works with Jocelyn. You would be like, she's a baddie on the internet, right? In her own right. Like some, of course, are more spiritual. Some are more energetic. Some are more business focused. Some are, you know, focused on frequencies and the unseen. Some are focused on health. Some are business to business. Like everybody is doing different things. But the thing that brings me so much joy is like watching women monetize who they are, like at the core, because we're always going to be brought back to that. And if anything feels off in your business, it's like, can you say that it is 100% soul truth aligned? Because a lot of the times there's something that's off, right? And we think that we have to do it, or like that's the formula, or that's the way, or this is how I have to position myself if I want to make money, or whatever it is. And then we're actually capping our ability to receive. But we said that we're here for receiving. So it kind of doesn't make sense, right? So when you look at your company, when you look at your own social media, when you listen to your free lives, when you look at your messaging, you look at your emails, you look at your offer stack, you look at your pricing, you look at your brand, you look at the clients that you have. How many times have I heard someone be like, I love my clients, but I have outgrown this conversation? All the time. I'm really known for this, but like this is not lighting me up anymore. And guess what starts to happen? It starts to feel, you can't lie to yourself, right? Like frequency doesn't lie. So it'll start to feel heavier. Their income will start to slow down. Like it'll just be like, you'll have that feeling of like, I lost my magic. Like, did I lose it? Like what's going on? And you didn't lose it. You didn't lose anything, but a new evolution, which this is the conversation I'm more interested in, but I want to clear up the thing about communities and cults. The evolution is coming through you. And a lot of people come to me at that point. So it's like, I've been doing this for a few years, but like, like something is just, it's like, I can't imagine getting up every day for the next 10 years, talking about this, doing it like this, having these conversations. Like something just feels off, right? Or maybe you're newer and you're going out to start and you're like, just like I'm moving, but like it just doesn't like feel right. So I want you to know that you get to have the full feeling of like, yes. And sometimes you're going to go through seasons and this is also why it's so important to be sovereign when you're in the spaces that you invest in, so you can feel your yes. And your yes isn't coming from the energy of the room. Perhaps the energy of the room is activating a yes within you, but it's not coming from the energy of the room and what's most popular in the flavor of the day in that room. Millions are made on sovereign power and sovereign leadership. Leaders interacting in community spaces are very sovereign in their energy, right? You need to be able to know what is yours. You need to be able to know what is yours. And if you have like an open head in human design like I do, or an open heart or whatever it is, noise is extremely distracting. But activation and being, it's like, but you know how it's like you can get, if you guys, you'll know what I'm talking about if you are an open head or if you have a lot of open centers, where it can be like information overload, too many people's energies, and like it's too much. And then you're like, what's mine, what's theirs? And you just feel off and ungrounded, right? That's not helpful. But when it's like targeted and it's precise and it's made for you, you're like, fuck yes, this just lit me up. This activated me. Like, I know what to do from here. So the frequency that I like to create in my rooms is targeted, precise, lighting you the fuck up, right? No matter whether we're talking about how you want, like, let's evolve your messaging to match more of you and actually like, and make you more money, make you the money you're here to create. Let's have your offer stack actually match your genius and be refined so that clients are just moving through down the pathway on their own and you don't have to do so much, right? Like, let's sell at the prices we actually want to sell and not just raise our prices and hope for the best, but actually have our content aligned where we are calling in the client who easily pays those prices, who is just a fuck yes all day long to being in your world, right? So for us to get all the wheels moving in your business, for anyone to get all the wheels moving in their business, we've got to be operating from a level of truth. And that means that you, right, have to be honest with yourself about what feels off. I have totally gone through seasons. I evolved my model last year where I was like, like I was fresh off $1 million year. Most people would just double down, get more people in, recreate it so they can be like, I made $2 million, right? And I was like, something just feels off. Things feel like they need to shift. And that had never really happened to me before in the company, or not at that, like, not for that duration, and not, it would be like small things before, like, oh, shift this container a little bit, shift this message. It was like tweaks. Whereas this time I was like, oh, we're at like an evolution, right? Where it's like my North Star in business, like what I desire to create is changing, because I realized, and I hadn't realized before, where it's like, oh, I was like, I'm not going to be like 65 years old in a Telegram chat. I love being in a Telegram chat right now, mentoring. I love having this conversation right now, but like, well, I love this 20 years from now. I need to build a more sustainable company. And my company was sustainable by most people's standards. I was largely scaled on like masterminds and high ticket group spaces. And then, you know, I had more mid ticket, et cetera, et cetera. And I was always about like, you know, less than 15% private. But it wasn't set up to where I could have the option to, let's say, have the business run without me, not on the team side, not on the delivery side. Like, the company was not there. And I know that building a company like that takes a time, right? And team and precision and like systems and different offer delivery. And if we're going to not do as much proximity, it's like, okay, well, how are we bringing more people in the door into mid and low ticket, right? Like, it's a change in marketing and selling. And if you want to sell more low and mid ticket, it's a change in how you position your work, right? If you want to do ads, right, then we have to have a level of like mastery around communicating our frameworks and how we do things and like all these different things. You don't even need to run ads, right? But just things that come more into the conversation when you really want to like blow up more low and mid ticket offers, things that I did not have to think about before. Because yes, I'm like strong at marketing and selling, like I'm a business coach, but so much of it was like driven by like my frequency and what was alive for me. And like, that's still true. If we don't have that, like we're dead on the inside, you know? So then I was like, okay, I got to build a new skill set. Okay, we need different types of team members. Having a team that can just check boxes versus a team that can run things without you is a very different team, right? So there was all these ways where I was like, oh, I desire to build a more scalable company for the long run, not because I don't want to mentor today, not because I love being a personal brand. I love showing up, like talk about community. It's like, I love the energy exchange, right? I love watching women transform and make more money and find their power and find their voice and have a fucking physical, emotional, spiritual, financial glow up, like all of it, right? So I'm very like invested in that part of the journey, but it's just smart business to know, right? It's not because we're dipping out. It's just smart business to know that you're actually creating for scale, right? For the long run. It also just gives you the power of choice. Like you might want to like drop off for a month and like, I don't know, go be in the countryside in France, or you get married, or you have a baby, or you just want to live life and you don't want it to be like, well, unless I show up today, I don't make money. Like that is not freedom. That is what I joke, where it's like, we've got ball and chain from anywhere around the world. Like, yay. That ain't it, right? And it might feel fun, but it doesn't feel fun if your life is actually needing to rearrange, or you hit a season where you want it to rearrange. What feels fun will quickly become ball and chain that you can run from anywhere around the world. And it's not because of your clients. It's just because of like, you have to make sure that you're growing a business that can grow with you through all seasons, right? That is based on your soul truth. And you are not wrong when that changes. It is normal. It is going to change. You are a visionary. You are a visionary. Name one huge name in the world who's had that you know of, that you admire, who's had no evolution in their career. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And then when it happens to us and we're being called forward in new ways, you feel like you're wrong. You feel like you are lying. You feel like you're failing. You're spending all this energy like trying to reconnect to your offers and reconnect to your business. And I'm like, maybe it's just time to change something. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to reconnect to offers, reconnect to a business, reconnect to a client type that you have simply outgrown. And the fear will be, well, if I'm not making money like this, which is how I know how to make money, then like, what will happen, right? So we will have fear and it will raise the money scarcity. And I'm telling you, like, nothing has to change. I literally have had a client in Femmepire where this occurred. She did not just change her client type, she changed her whole niche, who she wanted to focus on. We weren't even talking about the same topics anymore, right? And she had built a 7-figure business already, like, you know? And so I was like, it's not a fucking problem. Like, if we bring instant influence to your content, if we do these certain things, right? Shift your containers like this, shift your messaging like this, let's position these offers like this. She didn't even have to burn her business down. We just needed to reposition for the niche that she wanted to be in and for the client that she actually wanted. She did not have to burn her business to the ground. She did not even have a 1 month long income dip. In fact, she made more money and was surpassing 70K cash months while in transition. So I tell you that, and I just recently, another client booked an effortless flow session with me, which is like my new private offer. If you're interested in it, send me a DM. I'm fucking loving them. So just so you know what it is, it's a 90-minute call. And basically what you'll give to me is just like the entire overview of your, like, we'll send something out, you fill it in, right? And so I can see every single like aspect of your business, every offer you have, how it's structured, the price point, the time, like how many times a year you run it, your whole model. And it's so funny because she was like, no business coach was ever asked to see my business. And I was like, not surprised, but also, for me to dive into your business with you very quickly, then I need to be able to see your whole business at once, right? And we had this whole conversation and we got to, for her too, one, you know what I found, because I was like, hey, what numbers do you want to be hitting? Like, what's going on? And it's really helpful because I have her business in front of me with everything that she runs in the business. And I was like, that's like impossible with this model. This will take you forever. It will be so hard. You will be stressed out. You will need 1 million people. I know we're talking about a few different things today, but this is why I actually want to see what's going on in your business. And then I was like, okay, and then what we also found out was like, she's just tired of having the conversation that she's been having. And the angle that she's been taking in her business does not feel empowering to her anymore. So for example, a lot of healers do this, where you'll sell to people in the beginning from a place of their wounding, healing from some type of, I don't know, like narcissistic abuse, healing from, build your business with, beat imposter syndrome and build your business, right? There will be an aspect where it's like you're hitting on the wound, but like that's supposed to be the point of activation into your space. And then it's like, even though people can experience those things, they start to get to a point where they want a more advanced client. But the problem is, if you market to people based off their wound, you call in someone who's still very much identified with their wound. So let's use the example of narcissistic abuse. So I could be someone, come on. This is like, I think they say 1 in 10 people is a narcissist. So even that word is a little, but, so I consider myself an empowered person, right? I could be someone who has had, an experience with narcissism from my past. And I'm in a place where I'm desiring a different, I'm desiring to call in my partner, right? I'm desiring another level of healing to like open me up to somebody else, to something else. I don't identify, at my current point of evolution, I would not identify with being a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I would that would feel so far gone, just meaning a long time ago in my journey of personal development, where it's like, I no longer need that label to be like, oh, I feel seen, I'm going in the room. I would be able to be like, yes, they are narcissists. Yeah, that was crazy. And I've done that work. Now what I'm looking for is X, right? But if you only talk to me from the point of well, have you been experienced narcissistic abuse? I'm past that point, right? So I look right over you. Instead of you talking about the actual magic, I'm speaking about, someone who's perhaps focused on narcissism and relationships. Instead of speaking about the magic of your method, the magic of what you're able to create, who are you from your current point of evolution? What conversations do you have from your current point of evolution? Who are you able to help who isn't in their deepest wound anymore, right? And I'm the kind of client who's going to pay X, Y, and Z to get that support, but not if you talk to me from a place of a wound, because I'm past that part of the journey. So are you marketing to people? But a lot of times we start there. It's very normal, right? But this is why when we get overly pain pointy, you have all these clients who can't pay. People are have price objections, or they don't want to pay your premium prices, or whatever it is, right? You call in you're speaking to the victim. You call in the victim, right? When you speak to people's highest priority needs, highest priority values, which can still be quote unquote pain points, but let's just say highest value problems, you wind up calling in people where they're yeah, that is exactly what I'm going through. That is, and their highest value problems or highest value desires. You're going to call in people where that's exactly what they're looking for, and that's what they want to resource. So I've had marketing to the wound, right? And they're feels off, bored of the conversation, want a more elevated client. I'm tired of talking about this. And I'm amazing, because your magic was never about the wound. You have other magic. Talk about labels. So I said I don't like labels. Here we are with the label again. You don't you're labeling this wound for people to identify with. And for some of people, that's fucking perfect. So if you're that conversation all day long, up, down, backwards, forwards. But you know what else? I see a lot of people do that with brands that they're no longer mentoring people in. So the whole experience will be YouTube videos, pre-recorded stuff, whatever. So I'm they don't have to have the conversation. They're not interacting with clients, right? A lot of people who started out in the personal development world, call it 10 years ago, where, you know what I mean? Their take on, for example, healing and development is just different, right? They tend to be covering the earlier parts of the journey, because that's where the personal development space was at that time. And they're very known for that conversation. A lot of them are this business is fully scaled. They're writing books. You can purchase programs, whatever, but they're not deep in masterminds and having deep conversations in the Telegram chats, et cetera, on a daily basis. So it's very different to run a business like that, because you don't really come up against so much of kind of evolve past this conversation. If you've evolved past that conversation, you can go write another book, but everything is there for everything else to make you money. when you are still more involved in your business, right? When you still are like, you're running masterminds, you're engaging with people more, you're just in more of the energy of the build, right? It's earlier in the energy of the build. It's not been like 15 years and you are widely, worldwide known for this topic. And you know what? A lot of those people, I wasn't there, right? I'm sure some of them started in different places even before that. But so when you're earlier in the build, it is normal that if you're going in Telegram every day, if you're going in your masterminds every day, and you're just like, I love these humans, but I have evolved out of this conversation. Like, we want to do something about it. Oh, for effortless flow, what I was saying with this client. So we basically found, so too many things. Okay, so we want to do something about it. One, for your income, one, for your joy, your pleasure, your fucking yum. But also, it's like what tends to be happening is like when you are marketing to people from their wound and you're marketing them with that label, what gets hidden underneath doing that, and if you are a healer, please listen to me. Even if you're a business coach, you are some type of like, you do something that helps people like internally transform. Actually, this applies to, we're all healers, aren't we? We are. So what ends up happening is your actual gift, what is going to make you so much money, what is so marketable, what is so easy for us to sell, package, promote, message around, all the different things, is buried because you're busy talking about narcissistic abuse and you don't even want to be talking about it, or whatever other limitation. But now I don't know what you do. I don't know your magic. I don't know your methods. I don't even know really, other than healing from X or, running a business with ADHD. We all entrepreneurs have ADHD. All of us do. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, is that even a limitation? And like, yeah, well, I say it's very easy to get distracted and can be hard to focus 100%, but not when you're interested in what you're doing. Isn't that funny? You know what I mean? A lot of people who did the worst in school are like geniuses. They were just bored, right? But when you're operating under that lens, and that's not actually how you want to sell, but like that's how you got into a niche, and like maybe you have ADHD too, and it just kind of made sense. And then you're starting to like wear out on the conversation because really what you don't even want people to always have to have a label, but you're starting to wear on the conversation regardless of the reason. What I have always seen is the way that you help people get a certain result. The result is not that they can scale a 6-figure business with ADHD. There is something else. There is something else under that. Right? Otherwise, that's me being like, I can scale a multi-7-figure business and like, you know what I mean, get distracted. Like, this is not the most interesting thing about me. Right? But like, what is your magic? So when you have these labels that you don't align with, your magic isn't there. The real transformation that you offer people, because I see this happen with clients, is not being marketed. And I don't mean they're 5-figure months. I don't mean that they like called in their partner, right? There's something else that comes with that. Yes, we want to sell tangible results, but like how I just had a whole conversation with you guys around women don't just come to me to make money. There are a lot of people on the internet teaching how to make money. That's not fucking it. Some of my clients are here. Hello. Hi, Laura. Hi, Jill. That is not it. There's something else that you're drawn to, right? You're drawn to the energetic expansion. You desire to have the 3D mastery. You desire what I just said earlier. You don't want to be in my community. You don't want to be like me. You want to be more of you, and you feel that I can activate something more within you while also teaching you the tangible of how to build your company for you. Not mirrored after me unless there's aspects that align, but for you. You feel that I can see you because you see that I see my other clients, right? You know that I have energetic mastery. You know that I have 3D mastery. You know, even if you haven't said the words, your soul knows you will, quote unquote, leave or become more whole, more of who you are, more in your power, more yum, more command over business, more command over manifestation, more command over life, right? We were talking about a very full experience within the context of scaling your company. Right? But what is it for you? And if you're only talking to me about ADHD or whatever, and that's not the conversation you actually want to be having, because then you're kind of just like borrowing labels from the world that society has created to label people and label situations. And those labels have value, and there's points in our journey We're actually being able to label what we are experiencing and label what we're going through is validating, right? So for example, with the narcissist, if you experience narcissistic abuse, when you first learn what narcissism is, you're like, oh, whoa, that explained a lot, right? But then you kind of go on and on and on. And then you're like, do I want to keep, yeah, that's true. That's what it is. But I'm feeling pretty complete with this. I'm not really attracting that anymore. If I do, it comes up quickly. I don't really want to keep identifying with being a survivor of domestic abuse. I would like to experience other elements, other journeys, other parts of my life where I don't need to be defined by this label. But this label is really powerful and is really validating for me in the beginning. So you see what I'm saying? So then your clients are the same. Your clients are the same. So just be the type of client where they're like, oh my God, yes, this is very validating for me. Wow, we really need to name this because I've been getting gaslit my whole life, right? That's what's going to happen for a lot of people in that situation. And then there's a certain amount of healing occurs and you're like, okay, cool. I'm ready for more. I'm ready for this type of relationship, but I don't need to think about navigating into the relationship that I desire through the lens of narcissistic abuse, right? So that's where you actually have magic. So what is the lens that I desire to step into the relationship through? I'm saying this because a lot of people who mentor around narcissism also happen to mentor around relationships, right? And so I've seen this so many times. And so the client who came to me, I was like, we actually got to her magic. I was like, you're just complete with this. You're complete with this. And we don't have to burn down your business. We're just going to reposition. We're going to reframe. And we need to get your offer stock to make sense. She wanted to be having 50K months. That was not going to be happening anytime soon with her offer strategy. And the volume that was going to be quote unquote realistic for where her business is right now, where we can actually get there in the next, 6 months, whatever it is. But it's this is where it's so powerful for me to be able to see people's businesses, because what had she done? Talk about outsourcing power. She had just followed a model that a mentor before her had, and that mentor was arguing this is the end all be all model, right? And I was like, yes, that model is really scalable. It really fucking works. There was aspects of it that I have in my company, but it only works if you can bring in a lot of volume, and you need an enormous amount of volume for you to hit the numbers that you want to hit right now with what we have going on right now. The ecosystem here is not working for you to make this money with ease. So first of all, let's reposition you. Let's build this out so we can actually bring in the income that you want to make and not have this thing that is supposed to be supportive, but it's actually just feeling stressful right now because we need to build the skill set for creating volume, right? So in the meantime, let's do this over here so your income's not tanking, right? So it's I love going back to my effortless flow private offers. I loved it because we just had such a 360 conversation where it was her offer model, her positioning, what she actually does, what she wants to stand for in this current evolution. This woman has, a multiple 6-figure business. She's written a book. She's done all these things. And this happens to us sometimes. We change and we evolve, and it's so normal. So I really want you to lean into this. And I also loved it too, because it was a moment where it's oh, there's aspects of her business model that she's desiring to run the way I run them. And I'm telling her that's available and I like it, but your business isn't ready for it. This isn't well, I don't know, something's wrong with you. You just got to keep going. It's no. And that's what I mean when I'm saying I don't need my clients to run their businesses like mine, be like me. What is correct for me in this moment may not be correct for you in your current moment. What is correct for me now was not correct for me 3 years ago and wouldn't have worked, right? This is why I always emphasize taking such a tailored approach to business. Even though I will teach frameworks, I will teach strategies, et cetera, it's always flexible and it's always adaptable to you, because we can't just wear other people's business models, just like we can't just wear other people's content. You have to do what makes sense for you and what's going to work for you, for your genius, for what you desire, for where you are in your company, and for your skill set in marketing and selling at this time. What is going to work for you is not necessarily what is working for your mentor. And that is not a problem. That's not a problem. What worked for me now would not work for me 3 years ago. Right? So I'm about meeting you where you are. So instead of having you you know what I mean, fangirling in my community, I'm like, I am here to meet you where you are, right? Which just puts I'm amazing, and I know this, but it's like, I want you here to grow for you. That is what I'm focused on. And it's probably because I was someone, right, who was highly codependent, who did have my power outsourced, who, it's like, I always assumed that like, you know, it was like, even in being sure, I'd be like, oh, maybe I'm not correct. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came from operating like that and being highly codependent in romantic relationships, all the things. So that is part of why too. And I know I sure as shit did not get here by fangirling and doing that in mentorship spaces, but I see it a lot, right? And so that's why I'm so passionate about being like, this, oh my God, the sun is going down. Like, this isn't it. And so in my spaces, and like I said, do not freak out. If you have a named community and you're like, this is a fucking vibe, please keep going. I will help you build that, scale that. Don't, like, sometimes I feel like people take what I say. I mean, I'm in a position of leadership. Of course, people are going to value what I say, but remember, it's like, I could argue any direction. You guys are not all going to be the same. You can be doing this in such a healthy, supportive way. You could also be supporting people at a different phase of their journey where like they actually need that right now, right? There is room for all of us doing all the things the way we desire to do it. I'm talking to you about how you show up, right? And how I desire to interact with you as a mentor and with you as a client, where we are walking shoulder to shoulder and we are scaling what works for you in this current season for where you're going. So Effortless Flow is amazing because we just basically redid her whole, you know, refined her whole business, the whole thing in 90 minutes. And then the next day we have Telegram together so we can really like do the refinements and dive in and talk about anything sticky that's coming up and what's landed. And we did that together. And then the next day she was like, holy shit, Jocelyn. She's like, I have 12 A4 pages, which I think in the United States is 8 by 12. Like, I've just channeled everything. It is all so clear now. And I was like, fuck yes. Right? Like, this is it for me. Soul truth activation is a money activation. And then we bring the tangibles of how we're going to execute it. And again, you don't have to be scared that you have to burn down your whole business. You don't. And I just felt so grateful that she had all that freedom, that she found that freedom, and now she's in the revolution and we'll like scale the hell out of it, you know? So if you're interested, I'm only doing a limited number of these per month. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing them, but I love them. Like, we can truly explore anything in your business, your strategies, your content, your sales pages, what you're doing, how you define your methods, how you're positioning yourself, your offers, what feels sticky, what feels good, your offer model, like your sales strategies, energetic things, money things, manifestation things. Like, I'm happy to dive in all of it with you. And it feels really good to be able to support people from such a clear space. I have such a clear calendar now. I'm like, okay, got what I asked for. This is crazy with how I reoriented the business. So anyhow, if you desire to explore that session with me, please send me a message. I'm going to have a limited number of them for the next few weeks. And then also the revolution is like so near and dear to my heart. So the revolution, the price is going to be going up on February 1st. This is the membership mastermind for multi-dimensional women to actually scale your Relax Millions. You are a visionary. You are a creative. You are not someone who can be put in a box, right? You've tried to do that many times and like it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. Your energy is evolving. You are evolving. You are deeply connected to the divine, but you also recognize that like, if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to impact a lot of people, you are going to need to scale your skill set for marketing, selling, packaging, all the different things, right? And so I say we get to do it the feminine way. You do not have to do sales calls. You do not have to do live launches. You do not have to live on social media. And if you want to do any of those things, you can. I absolutely have clients who do sales calls. And in that case, I'm like, well, here is, if you want to do them, here's how you make sure 95% of your calls close, right? Because when I did them for the first 6 months of my business, that was my experience. But now I don't do any of these things. I don't do big, complex 465 step launches. I don't do sales calls. I don't do a lot of the things, right? And I never did that they tell you that you have to do if you want to make a lot of money. Relax Millions, right? But what we want to find, it's not just, okay, Jocelyn, now I'm jump in and replicate your model. My model has evolved as my business has grown. My model has evolved as my visibility has grown. My model has evolved as my skill set for marketing and selling has grown. So what I'm not offering to you is now you got to come in and do it like me. And if you don't want to do it like me, I don't know what to tell you. That's not what we're doing here, right? We want to scale your company for what feels good to you right now. We want to scale your company for where you are in business right now. We want to scale your company to where it's like you can make the most money, have the most impact with your current audience size, with your current skill set, right? We don't want you to have to like become a new person and just to hit another income number. Like that's complicated. There's always an easier way. And we really fuck ourselves up thinking that the way has to be hard or that we have to adopt a model that somebody else is currently running in order to get where we want to go. Right? You don't have to run ads right now if you're not ready for ads right now. I've made millions and millions and millions of dollars with no ads. I'm going to start exploring them because it makes sense. Right? I learned how to sell low ticket well. I learned how to sell mid ticket well. I grew my skill set there. They make sense for me now. They didn't make sense for me 2 years ago. You know what? In fact, I tried 3 years ago and guess what happened? Nothing. And I wasted $10,000. Right? But I got to the 50K months, which is what I wanted at the time. The 100K months, made millions of dollars without that, right? There's always an avenue available. And so my job, my desire is to help you get to that avenue from a place of your power, from a place of your deepest soul truth and your deepest level of power. So right now, you are able to, if you've purchased in the business previously, even if your credit window has closed, through January 31st, you are able to apply your credit. If you have multiple, just send me a message and I'll explain the details to you. And then I'm going to be raising the price on February 1st. Tomorrow, actually, Tuesday, we have our next hot seat coaching call. This is a high touch space. You have full access to the product suite. We have 2 monthly hot seat coaching calls. Twice a year, we run 6-week masterminds. We have so much fun stuff coming up. Enchanted Sales is live right now. I'm going to be running, well, surprise, I'm just gonna tell you guys, like Magnify, Manifest, Receive as a mastermind next, which I'm super excited about. I literally have not done in years. You'll be part of that. Of course, our mastermind support, you have everything inside the Secret Money membership. And inside Secret Money, I share so many behind the scenes trainings, riffs, what's going on in my business, super fucking transparent. As you guys can tell, I don't like to hide a lot. But also the strategic in terms of like tangible things to help you grow, of course. What's on my mind, what I'm noticing, trends I'm noticing, what we want to participate in, what we maybe don't want to participate in, or how we want to be thinking about it before we do, right? Like, and then also how I'm evolving the company. And shoot me a message about that. I'll get you the deets. Thank you for being here. Have the best night.